Okay, it's like super late here, but it's the only way I'm able to get the black level test underway for the Samsung CU8000 to see if this thing is actually worth our time or not in a dark room. Probably not at the price point. Again, that's an important thing, but we're going to see either way now that the lights are off. So this is the darkroom performance of the Samsung CU8000. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty damn impressive for like one of the most budget TVs you can get right now. So this is the black level performance, and it's extremely uniform. I mean, we've seen this kind of performance on full array local dimming and mini LED televisions, and this thing is just damn clean. Like, I'm not having any issues whatsoever for the vast majority of scenes. Now, it's not perfect. There is some sort of spottiness that does happen where you'll notice some, not necessarily, well, it's kind of clouding. It's too dim to be clouding, really, but you can kind of see that there's just a little bit of weakness or bright spotting in some areas if you really squint, but it's really not visible, especially if you sit farther back in the room. Now, the relevancy of this is because, again, we are always told you've got to buy the most expensive TV out there. Now, I am seeing some of that bright spotting here, okay? I'm going to open up my ISO here so you guys can really see it. We're going to go to ISO, that's too much, about ISO, I'm blowing out the image now anyway, but about ISO 800 is where you can really see it, but it's even that's too exaggerated. I just see a little faint blooming here, or like clouding here, right here in the center. It's just that one little spot, and there's a little haziness that happens here and here, but it's nowhere near as prominent as it is on screen. Now, of course, with these kinds of budget TVs, panel lottery is definitely a thing, so you have to keep returning and exchanging a bunch of times until you get one with less defects typically, but I'm fairly certain that with the level of black that we're getting on this, especially like, for example, in a scene like this, if it pops up on your screen, at a glance you are not going to sit there like super nitpicky or super squinty, especially at this price point. You're going to be like, oh wow, the black levels are pretty good. I don't have any issues with it. I think that's going to be the general experience that most people buying this TV are going to have. Like when this green is on the black background, you're not going to be like, oh gosh, the black levels are awful. You're not going to notice, right? And I think that's really, really good considering now we're at a point where budget TVs are getting genuinely better than they've ever been in the terms of like they're competing at a full array level without having any local dimming. Because let's be clear, there is no local dimming on this television at all. And I think that's really impressive. Now, of course, you have a different kind of dimming, which is basically their generic, like, you turn the feature on and it just flickers a bunch, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. It's the black frame insertion, but not everybody knows what these jargons mean, so I'll show you in expert settings. You go down to your picture clarity options, and then you go to your LED clear motion, and if you turn that on, yes, things get better as far as your black levels are concerned, but there's just a noticeable pulsing and flickering that is just not acceptable or enjoyable. So that is something that I try to avoid at all costs because it is just incredibly jarring, and even having it on now makes me really dizzy. So I turn that off. But overall, when I look at it, it's pretty good. I don't notice any issues in terms of black levels, and in fact, it's actually extremely shocking that this is a budget TV. Like, truly, like, look at this image right now. If I told you this was like, you know, a Hisense U7K or a TCL Q7, you'd believe it. You'd believe it without fail because the black levels are that good. Now, that's surprising for a CU8000. Like, this is like entry level, right? This isn't even like top of the line, and I don't know. It's always weird when these kinds of things happen, but it's also good. Now, again, not perfect. I notice a substantial clouding blurb right here in the center, right here where it was before. So that's my hot spot on this particular unit. And these hot spots will change location from panel to panel. So that's the downside of not having any local dimming, where if local dimming was, you know, enabled on this set, you wouldn't see that at all. So it's not like there's no downsides. But I mean, in terms of you're approaching this with a super budget price point, and you're trying to figure out in a dark room what are my trade-offs, Trade-offs are the occasional super hot spot like I have right now, right? Where it's like, I'll probably even open it up so you can see it a little bit more prominently. Like, that's about what it's like on my end. I mean, it's definitely noticeable, but it's not so noticeable to the point where it's like, throw this TV in the trash, never ever look at it. It's just like, it has an argument to be made, especially if you're somebody who wants just like a really big TV, but you don't want to break the bank. You can get a pretty big version of this TV without spending that typical Sony tax or, you know, whatever. And I think it's great because you have options. Now, again, not perfect in terms of black levels, as we are clearly seeing. And I'm keeping the ISO just slightly elevated so you can see even at slightly elevated ISOs, you're still not having any issues in terms of the overall performance of the black levels. Again, we can see it here as well. So it's like the hot spotting does play a factor when it's mostly black, but overall you're going to enjoy it, right? Like, the darkroom experience is actually impressive for what it's worth. And I actually was not expecting this going into this. I actually expected this to do way worse. I mean, like, by leaps and bounds worse. But it's actually not doing worse at all, and I think that's a conversation that's worth having, at least at the budget price point where, crap, you know, you're really walking away with something worth your time. So, what do you guys think about the darkroom performance given the price point, which I keep saying throughout this video, but it's very important to keep that in perspective because, I mean, I've seen TVs in this price range, and they don't have black levels like this, so I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and let's start a dialogue. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching the #1 brand in honesty. Keep it locked for more awesome content like this. We are going to be optimizing this TV and all that good stuff, but that comes later. But again, till the next video, I'll see you guys later.